If you had to choose the best motorcycle in its class, this high-performance Ducati Superbike would definitely be a top contender. Connor, who is nearly 50 years old, had been on the road since early morning, waiting for his beloved bike that he had ordered almost 2 weeks earlier, the 2023 Ducati 959, standing in front of him. After picking it up, Connor and his friend lifted the bike onto a truck and transported it back to the workshop. Connor bought this bike because the engine was still in good working condition, and he wanted to restore it as soon as possible. He immediately began the teardown process to calculate which parts needed replacement. The first components to be removed were various parts at the front of the bike. At this stage, it was clear that many cables had been damaged in the crash. Next came the removal of the rider and passenger seats, followed by the fuel tank. When dismantling the front suspension, Connor discovered it was slightly bent, clearly unusable. The damaged front wheel was discarded right away. He then continued disassembling the bike. Removing the radiator was surprisingly easy and required almost no effort, so the entire damaged radiator was taken out. At this point, most of the damaged components on the Ducati 959 had been removed. Next came the air intake pods and the subframe. The unique design of the Ducati 959's exhaust system became evident. After removing the exhaust, Connor discovered another hidden issue. The transparent side cover turned out to be a counterfeit product, which was unacceptable to him. He planned to file a complaint later, but for now, the priority was to remove the cover. After deciding on the next steps, Connor drained the engine oil. Once the oil was drained, further disassembly could continue. The removed cover gave Connor another surprise. Despite being a replica, its quality was actually quite good. Ignoring brand value, it could still be reused later. Unfortunately, the bearing inside was badly worn and clearly unusable. Meanwhile, some of the ordered parts began to arrive. This included the exhaust system previously ordered for the Ducati 959. The new exhaust provided noticeable improvements in sound, although it also added some weight. The original subframe was unaffected by the crash and only needed simple cleaning. The bodywork also required no repairs, just a light clean. Some damaged cables on the frame were removed using a decisive approach. After completing the frame teardown, it was time for an exciting unboxing. The new exhaust set included carbon fiber components. Looking at it, Connor could already imagine how it would look once installed. To satisfy his curiosity, he quickly prepared and mounted the new exhaust onto the clean subframe. Next, he addressed the bearing issue by removing the old bearings and replacing them with a genuine set. The original side cover and oil filter were also replaced with new ones. Then came the installation of a used headlight bracket that Connor had sourced earlier. Once the front end issues were sorted, attention shifted to the fuel tank, which had a noticeable dent. Although it affected the appearance, Connor planned to install a tank cover later, so the tank could still be used. He found a tank cover in the workshop, installed it, and then mounted the tank back onto the bike. Connor then moved on to the rear suspension, a major expense, totaling $1,995. After a few days of waiting, the new suspension arrived, complete with 3 springs that could be adjusted for different rider weights. The front suspension kit also arrived, containing springs, pistons, and a steering damper. It was clear that Connor was preparing this 959 for track-focused performance. The surprises didn't stop there. He also received a nearly new set of brake discs and a new front brake caliper. completing the front-end upgrades. With a new rear suspension installed, the original rear shock was removed. Although the stock suspension was still usable, Connor preferred the best possible components for this bike, which he considered a true treasure. The decorative parts from the original suspension were transferred to the new one. Next, Connor addressed the damaged triple clamp bearings. The bent bearing housing was removed and replaced with a new bearing set, followed by installation of the new front suspension. With that, both front and rear suspension issues were fully resolved. More packages arrived, containing a new wiring harness, clutch lever, and throttle assembly, which Connor carefully installed. A new front wheel was also fitted, along with racing-style controls. He even installed a professional racing switch set, a rare and hard-earned upgrade. With the handlebar reconstruction complete, Connor also serviced the clutch, repeatedly bleeding it to remove trapped air. After finishing these steps, he attempted to start the engine, but failed several times. After replacing the battery, he was finally able to remove the engine from the frame, greatly improving the repair process. The next task involved repairing broken wiring on the frame. Connor chose to cut and reconnect the original wires, a safer method that preserved the factory layout. Once completed, the instrument panel functioned normally again. Now it was time to focus on the exterior. The white bodywork kit arrived first, starting with the rear section, followed by the front. Many might wonder why pure white was chosen. Connor explained it was both affordable and ideal for repainting later. For the cooling system, Connor sourced a used setup. Although not in perfect condition, it was still functional and installed successfully. With the cooling system in place, the bodywork fitting continued. At this stage, the Ducati 959 restoration was about 90% complete. The final step was painting the white bodywork. Since the painting was done off-site, the detailed process wasn't recorded. The final result revealed a blue-gray motorcycle with bold 959 decals on both sides. The visual impact was striking, complemented by a transparent side cover, paired with carbon fiber panels, proof that Connor's aesthetic sense remained intact. And with that, the Ducati 959 was ready to be experienced on the road.